Hello, welcome back to the Trademark Sports YouTube channel, back for another round review. It's not going to be the hyper analytic stuff. If you want that, Bloke in a Bar, it releases a 3-hour podcast for that every single week. This is just more of a short form, bit of fun, bit of a laugh kind of thing. What a week of football. It's like good to have heaps of football back on the weekend. Obviously, we had Vegas last week. That was 2 games. This week we had 6. Next week we're back into the full swing of things. And we got our first look at every single team in the NRL season this weekend, apart from the Tigers, of course, that had the bye. And there's very interesting things to take away from a lot of teams, although it is round 1. We do have 26 other weeks of football to watch and have things unfold. But without further ado, let's crack straight into it. Thursday night, Knights versus the Raiders. Personally, I thought the Knights were going to come out and kill them. The Raiders, Ricky Stewart, had other ideas. Very typical Raiders, like Ricky Stewart kind of performance. Backs against the wall. The Knights knocked him out last season in the finals, and I think there's a photo floating around of a certain poster in the background that said "fuck 'em." I thought that was absolutely fantastic from the Raiders, and because look, it's either directed at the Newcastle Knights or everyone, including me, who tipped them for the spoon or whatever. But the Raiders, one thing you can count on with them is they're going to be gritty and they're going to show up no matter what. But anyway, the Knights, the errors killed them, to be honest. They just had a lot of drop ball in that first half. I think, personally, honestly, if they had have held on to the ball and shaked off those round 1 jitters, they probably win that game. I think things go very differently, and they're probably ahead of half time. Phoenix Crossland, my guy, was an absolute workhorse. Made 59 tackles, played massive minutes. But one thing, so throughout the game, he moved to 13, and when he did, when I saw it, I was like, ooh, that could actually work out really, really well, and I might still do that. But you had Cogger, Hastings, Crossland, Ponga, Gamble, so 5 ball players on the field at the same time. It's got in each other's road. It didn't look very good. As I said, there's still time for it to flourish, but yeah, for me, it wasn't fantastic. Just the attack in general looked clunky, which is funny, kind of concerning, considering there's not really that many roster and personnel changes, but it's the start of the season, things happen. Because last year they started the year clunky as well, and look how that ended, so we'll see what happens. Raiders, as I said before, typical Raiders win, gritty, grind out a win, just wore the Knights out. Morgan Smithies was super impressive on NRL debut, just gets to a ton of work, nothing flashy. He's not going to set the world alight with what he does, but geez, he just does the 1%ers. Player that you absolutely love to play with. Another player who sort of doesn't really do that much flashy, but Jamal Fogarty, his kicking game was elite. Basically, kicked the Raiders to a win, so that's a good start here for Jamal Fogarty. Didn't play a trial match, came out first game of the year, and just straight back into the way, back into business. They've had more 13-plus wins this year than they did last year through a whole season, which is interesting because their spine has, they had Rapana, a fullback, but you got Ethan Strange, who's played that was his first game at 5'8" in the NRL. In the halves there, Daniel Levi, your hooker, doesn't really excite you that much, and they came out and killed it. Then it was the Wars versus the Sharks over in New Zealand. When it was the start of the game, the Warriors came out so strong. I was like, whoa, they're fired up. They're ready to build on the back of that 2023 season. Adam Fanua-Blake killed it to start the game, and then again, errors, injuries, whatnot, things just didn't go their way, and the Sharks, to their credit, they stuck in there. It was a tough, gritty win for them, and it's always so hard to go over there and win in New Zealand, so kudos to them. And the other thing as well, it's good to get a win when Nicho Hynes doesn't play amazing. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't his worst game, but by far and away wasn't his best game. So if they can win and beat tough opposition when Nicho's Nicho's not playing well, sorry, I should say, that's a really good sign for the Sharks, and if you're a Sharkies fan. So positives to take from there, and I'll tell you who else. So a lot of not whispers, but a lot of people saying that Talakai probably shouldn't be in that Sharks team anymore. You got Ko Ito there that looks like to be an absolute gun, and Talakai must have heard that because he silenced those critics on the weekend. He was sensational. Most run meters for the Sharks, just absolute rugby league handful. He had a great game. Then it was Panthers versus Storm. Look, if you like high scoring football, this was not your game, but it was a good game of rugby league, that is for sure. The Storm were amazing defensively. That Penrith team, they're a very, very good attacking unit. They're just very structured, very clinical is the word I'm looking for, and what they do. And they looked lost at some stages in attack there. Like, it's so hard to keep the Panthers to 0. But what I found funny was, like, the last team to do that was the Storm. And again, sort of with the Sharks being able to win without Hines having a great game is good. They can get a win without Munster against the Panthers, the three-peat guys. And Pezzett looked like he's really starting to evolve into a better NRL player. You think of that team as well, with how they played. You've also got Nelson to come back into as well as Munster. Storm at top 4. I made a prediction where they weren't going to make the finals, and now, Storm at top 4. After round 1, I'm going to go on my prediction and say that. For the Panthers, I thought Taylor May was quite impressive on that left edge, coming back after an ACL. Hasn't played football for a long time and just slotted straight back into it. That non-try assist for Sonny Luke, pretty impressive. And then I just think, like, as well, Panthers fans, you started like slow last year as well, off the back of a couple of losses in preseason and whatnot. I don't think there's anything really to worry about. As I said before, long way to go in this season, and look, just got to get out the jitters. They probably had a massive preseason and they're just fatigued and whatnot. I think the Penrith Panthers will be absolutely fine. And it was the Eels versus the Dogs on Saturday, and I thought the Eels looked back to like their 2022 kind of form. They looked really fluid. Bryce Cartwright had the game of his life. He looked like he's starting to reach the potential that we all thought he had when he first came into grade, which is amazing signs for him. I think in general they looked really, really good. Gutho, always amazing. Mitch Moses didn't have like his footprints all over the game, but still was there doing his job, played great. But for the Doggies, that is a tough start to the year. I feel sorry for Doggies fans. It just feels like it's a new year, same story for the Bulldogs, and it's exactly what I've said though all off season. There's going to be a lack of cohesion because there's so many new faces there trying to buy into a system. You can't just keep turning over 12 players a year instead of all of a sudden just to gel and click. I do think they've played better than they did probably all season last year. You've got to find a way to get Matt Burton more involved in that team. He can't just be a kicker. You can't carry him just as a kicker. Saw Rugby League Guru suggest him playing fullback. I don't know if I like the idea of that, but at least it gets him injected there a bit more somewhere. I don't know what the answer is. I've always been a Matt Burton's a 6 or a centre, but maybe the answer is getting him back to centre. I don't know. I'm not too sure, but you've just somehow maybe getting him play both sides of the ruck. Yeah. I just think Matt Burton is such a talented football player that he can't just be stuck there being a kicker. Cameron Serrato's got to figure that out. Anyway, then we went on to the Titans versus the 2024 NRL Premiers, the Dragons. Tough start to life under Desi for the Titans. Look, their attack wasn't good, just to put it bluntly. And I'm not sure whether it's just because Foran was out. And like Tommy Weaver came in on short notice and whatnot, but they just the amount of times they had numbers and they just went short and they didn't spread it. It was so frustrating to watch. They just kept going off Verrills and Randall every single time, trying to barge their way over. And maybe it was a game plan against the Dragons because their defense is usually quite soft on their line. Getting that a little bit later, but geez, it just didn't look great. Titans definitely didn't have their best game. You add Jaden Campbell, David Fifita, and Kieran Foran into that team, and it could honestly be a different result in general. That's how much impact those guys have on that team. AJ Brimson wasn't bad at the centre in his first game out there, I thought. There is some positive signs there for Titans fans. Like Tino, again, was just fantastic. At halftime, he had 160 run meters. That is ridiculous. But yeah, wasn't their day. Tough start of the season. A long way to go. However, the Dragons, they had a great start to life under Flanagan. So many players stood up. Zach Lomax was outstanding on the wings. Tyrell Sloan had a really good game, popped up in the right areas, was good in defence. He had 10 tackles and 1 miss, which is massive for him. Did have one pretty bad error, but I guess you sort of come to expect that a little bit. Like one of the best players in the comp, Reece Walsh, makes 5-6 errors a game. It's going to happen. Ben Hunt, of course, again was really good. Kyle Flanagan, I thought was actually unreal. Scored a good try. Tom Eisenhuth, he deserves some flowers. He got through so much work. He was great in the middle there. I'd actually be happy to see him as the 13 moving forward. And on the right edge, Raymond for Tyler Mariner was really good. He shocked me. I was, pleasantly surprised by how Raymond for Tyler Mariner played. Just in the Dragons in general, the shape looked so fluid and quick. So many plays in action. I'd like to see him go out the back more though. They hit Jaden Su'A and RFM short so many times, and I reckon there was probably a few like 3-on-2s or 2-on-1s out the back. I'm like, oh, just give it out to the centres, but hey, it's round 1 again. Like, you just want to play simple footy, like just not overcomplicate it and try and force things. So I get that. But what was awesome for me as well, as a Dragons fan, was the fact that their goal line defence was sensational. I kept the Titans out, I think, in that first half for like 4 or 5 sets in a row on their own line, which we never, ever, ever see this Dragons side do. So that was awesome to see from my perspective. And then last game of the round, Cowboys versus the Dolphins. Tough day out for the Dolphins. Nothing really to write home about. I think you sort of just put this one in the memory bank and move on. Especially if you are the Hammer. He had an absolute shocker. Between being sold the candy from this weird little dummy flick thing, like that wasn't great to watch, and then giving Hilam Lukey just the easiest try that Luke ever scored in his life. Just catch the ball, man, or try and trap it. Don't just grub it. Back to Lukey. He made a few other silly errors, but look, we all have days like that. It just wasn't the Hammer's day. For the Cowboys, again, like sort of what I mentioned about the Eels before, they looked back to their 2022 form, led well from the forwards. Dearden was fantastic. Just overall a great performance. Defended well, tackled sharp. And it's always good when you get a buckload of points. When they end up scoring like 43 points in round 1, that's ridiculous. They moved to the top of the ladder at the end of round 1, knocking off my Dragons, which is unfortunate to see. But yeah, like I mean, Cowboys, they look like they're going to make the 8. Eels look like they're going to make the 8. Storm look like they're making top 4. There's just so many narratives already being written, and it's a great start to the 2024 season. If you have made it this far to the end of the video, we're going to put in the comments, Crossland is the GOAT. So I know that you made it this far. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Leave a comment about the player that you were most not excited to see over the weekend. It surprised you the most or impressed you the most over the weekend. And we will see you again for some more trademark videos. Don't forget to Scotty, drink your water, and Bradman, do your best.